Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, if I say the word sustainable to you, what does that mean to you?
I don't know. In this world, it's like sustainability. We got to recycle everything and keep sustaining. Yes.
Keep the environment working well.
Yes.
Keep the keep the planet clean.
Exactly.
Not destroy all mankind.
We don't want to do
humanity within the next couple hundred years or so.
Exactly. So
well, but what if I pair that with growth?
Now we're talking business.
And I'm not talking the growth of like our bellies over the last year because we all sat at home during the pandemic and watched
100%.
TV and ordered in all the bad food.
Not that growth.
No, I'm talking about business growth.
Yes.
Which, again, because of the last year, is probably a topic on the minds of a lot of our partners and our friends and a lot of people in this business world.
Yep.
Because even if you did have a quality year last year, you may not have grown as much as you were hoping or liking to if you grew at all.
Right.
And if you didn't, then you might be on a track where this year and the coming years, you need to really start working on some growth.
Yeah.
So that is going to be the topic of our episode today is sustainable growth. Not
Nice.
only just how to grow your business, but how to keep it growing at an even, regular pace that you can manage and control.
And I think we're primed for that. We got a lot of stimulus out there. We need to talk some growth and how to sustain it.
Great point. And we learned a lot over the last year, which hopefully would give people reasons to grow and change and try out new things. So,
Yup.
So this is another one of our topics from our TEConnect Today newsletter, which I believe we're bi-monthly, not monthly. We said
bi-monthly. Yes, I lied. I lied the other day.
Dean lies all the time. So just so you know, he's officially put that out there. He lies on the podcast. I'm sorry, folks.
It happens.
So we're gonna dive a little bit at the topic. We're gonna share 6 tips to achieve sustainable growth in your business, and you just kind of riff on maybe what to expect out of it if you're in that process, as well as our usual value to the VAR and what's tech connecting with us. It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, so our topic today, sustainable growth. As I mentioned, this is another one of the articles from our new TEConnect Today newsletter. If you haven't subscribed already, highly recommend it. I will link out to the previous newsletter in the show notes and also put where you can go. You can go to TEConnectportal.bluestarinc.com to sign up for next issues as they come out. It's filled with all kinds of content, but we're going to, I think on a fairly regular basis, we're going to start grabbing articles out of there and spending a little time riffing on them, fleshing them out a little bit, and having a little more of a lengthy discussion. So this one, again, is about this idea of sustainable growth. As I said up top, there's a lot of businesses, I'm sure, are struggling to figure out, hey, we not only do we have to get back in the saddle and get our business back underway and back to full capacity of some sort after potentially a difficult year, or if you were a fortunate business that didn't, have a lot of, a major impact over the last year as far as...
Some of them grew.
There
was some
you
growth
might have
out
actually
there.
grown. And
Absolutely.
And if so, great. Then we're going to tell you a little bit about how you can sustain that growth because there's some pitfalls in just randomly growing your business and not really thinking about how to make sure that growth stays in place and that you keep building on top of it. So this is 6 tips in this article. We're going to go through each of them, riff a little bit on them. The first tip, excel at your core competency. Which a lot of these are going to sound like no-brainers, but if you give them a little bit of thought, you start realizing like, hey, there's more to it than just the simplicity of it. And in my mind, the idea behind this is, hey, if you're great at something, and it could be either a certain type of technology, it could be a certain industry that you're amazing in, like maybe you're great at healthcare, or you are great at ADC. That's your strength. You know all there is to know about it. People come to you for that. That's great. You can hold on. Or maybe it's a business skill of some sort instead. Maybe you excel at customer service or after-sales support or something like that. Or you know that you're great at the installation side of things. Maybe, like people know they can depend on you to come in, get them up and running, have them ready to go out of the box on any piece of technology. Whatever that is, hold on to that core competency and make sure you are always doing well at it. No matter where else your business goes, keep that intact. because as long as it's still viable, it's a reason why a lot of your customers probably came to you. It's the reason why a lot of them are probably sticking with you, and it's probably also what they're referring you to other potential customers.
100%. Excel at your core competency. And when you think about that, because a lot of businesses, every business on an annual basis is going through some kind of process of, hey, how are we going to grow next year? What are we going to do? You have to keep in mind, if you will, that it's really difficult for a company to be all things to all people. And some companies get into that trap. They're in their business, they got their core, and then they get an idea, or somebody in the company has an idea, or a customer starts taking them down a path, and it's like, hey, let's go explore this type of things. And they start doing things that maybe are outside of the core, and they see that as a way of growing the business. But what we're saying here is that you have to excel at your core competency, and do not forget that, right? Do not forget what your core competency is. Continue to hone that, but that's going to be your cash cow. That's going to be what's going to enable you to grow. And we'll get into this here a little bit in ways in which you can grow. But there's a little bit of caution here too, because you don't want to overswing on that side either. You don't want to be that company that, you got your core competency and I'm not going anywhere. We do this, whatever it is, whatever this is, because what that's going to do is create an environment where you're just going to fade off into the distance. There's no innovation. You're not responding maybe to what's happening in the marketplace. So you can't, you have to be cautious about standing still too. So there's a little bit of a dichotomy here, but at the end of the road, what we're saying here is excel at your core. And really, excel is a really good word here, because it's not just saying, hey, keep your core business running. Right? Oh, it's over here, and it's excelling at your core means you are really staying in tune to what's going on around your core business, what's happening around your core business. You're continuing to hone that. It's, you have to keep your business honed and sharpened, and things are happening out in the marketplace, but you got to make sure that core is doing well. That's a great way to get long-term sustainability, is through your core.
Yeah, and I love the idea that what you just mentioned, that don't get too complacent, don't get too focused on that competency, where to the point where you ignore any other potential opportunities. And I know it
happens all the time.
And I know this is an example that people think of it like this is an extreme, but I always think of like Blockbuster. That's one of those classic companies that I always think that, man, they were so good at what they did.
Yep.
They were the premier video rental service and
100%.
DVD when that came out too. But they married themselves to physical media and just assumed that was the path forward, even when it was becoming abundantly clear that streaming was going to become a thing at some point. They glommed onto it, they held onto it for far too long, and it ended up being their downfall.
They did their core well.
They did. They very
Nobody
much did.
VHS rentals like Blockbuster did.
But imagine if they had along the way had been thinking ahead. Imagine if they had started up some sort of fledgling streaming service of their own. We could easily be talking about like, hey, did you watch that new show on the Blockbuster on Blockstream or something? I don't know. Classic. It could have very easily been something that worked out in their favor. But again, like I said, I know that's an extreme example of just literally getting left behind in the industry, but it's also one where you got to think about it and be careful and realize, hey, we can be very, very good at something, but if we're not reading the room, the industry, whatever's going on around us, there's a good chance that we suddenly get left behind when everyone else has moved away from what we excel at.
And the other part of that pendulum that we talked about is equally as important. I know a lot of companies, especially younger companies, that maybe they come out of the gate with whatever they're doing. If it's a software company, here are our core features of our software. And then they start getting ideas and they start hearing reactions from the marketplace and they start trying to accommodate all that. That can be such a resource drain and take away from your ability to excel at your core, which is what we're talking about here. I mean, if you start allocating resources, human resources and stuff like that towards these other things that maybe are turning into like little science fair projects, man, you got to be really, really careful about that too.
And I think we've encountered that with some of our software partners before. There's times when I've been working with software companies that clearly, built themselves around a specific core and a specific, hey, we designed this for retail, but we think there's a viable place that we could insert this into industrial realms somehow.
How many times has that happened to us? Yeah,
it does.
Like a POS software company will go, you can use this anywhere.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
Right, and it's okay to say that. It's okay to say like this isn't for everywhere. It's okay to do two things. It's okay to explore it, but it's also okay to acknowledge, hey, this isn't us.
Right.
And in that exploration period, fine, you devote some resources to that. But again, at the end of the day, right, at that moment, you still should be known as that POS retail company. And if it means that, hey, it can still be used off this direction and you find a viable path, great. Run down that path. But if you shift and say, you know what, we've already done this, we're good at this, we're going to coast along, and we're going to devote all of our time trying to go after this new industry, that is a recipe for obsolescence.
Yeah.
So.
It happens out there. I've seen it happen to companies. I've been a part of it. I've been in that world where, in a previous life, I worked for a multimedia production company. We started getting into digital signage, and it was a very pointed decision to go that route. And we knew that we had to keep the core of what we had, that business, that multimedia production business, still going before we got into that. And it's really important to do that. You got to excel at your core.
Definitely. And then number 2 here kind of is almost an inverse, but also strongly connected to number 1. Expect change. Dean, I'll let you start riffing on that one.
Right. So it's going to happen, right? I'll go back to your Blockbuster. It's going to happen. Change is going to happen in the marketplace. So you need to have that disposition that change is going to happen. So the question now becomes, if that's your expectation, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
You got to have that in your DNA. You have to be able to figure out and have a way to understand what change is happening in the marketplace. So what I would do is I'm advocating certain ways that you can sniff out change, because I know it's really hard for companies. They got their head down. They're trying to facilitate what they're doing, the orders that are coming in or the customers that they have. So sometimes when you have your head down and you're doing your work, you don't see what's going on in the marketplace. So you have to be very deliberate in some of these things. So number 1, I would consume information, be in the know, make sure that you separate out a little bit of part of your day or your week, so you're just reading about what's going on in the marketplace. Consume that information. Monitor your competition. If you're a reseller in the East Coast, find competition, people who do the same thing that you do out in the West Coast, and what are they doing? Monitor their website. Look at their blog site. What are they doing? Can you see that they're starting to pivot in some direction or some change? Oh, by the way, it's maybe even not a bad idea to reach out and connect with somebody out there, because you're not going to compete with them. If you're 2,000 miles away, not in the same marketplace, it's okay. It drives me crazy when resellers are like, they try to be very guarded with their secrets, and they don't want to explore and see what other people are doing, and maybe connect with these really folks that would be so far away that they're never going to be a competition. But you can glean a lot of information by bringing them into your ecosystem and having that chat about it. Go out, and then my final thing here, how do you sniff out change? Because you need to expect change is happening in the marketplace. Go out and listen to your customers. They are the ones that are going to tell you, hey, they're reacting. They're reacting to what's happening in the marketplace. They're competing with other people. So if you're a POS and you're in with restaurants, and you got to go talk to those folks. Hey, what's going on? Are there other features or other things that you need this to do, our solution to do, in order to accommodate the change that you're seeing in the marketplace? Got to go out and talk to them. Listen to what they have to say.
It's interesting you mentioned like the POS and the restaurant thing, and I think about, if you were a POS provider in the last year who also had, moved outside of just standard fixture where it's a monitor, a system, a big old cash register of some sort, and you had branched yourself out and moved into the realm of, mobile POS, where you can take orders at tables or something, or have a system for people to place their orders at the table, or maybe you already were in the game of outside ordering and pick up to go, or even had married yourself to some delivery services. You were already ahead of the game, so that when everything happened last year, and suddenly, whether you liked it or not, your restaurant had to shut down and either change to a new model or just be out of business for a while,
right?
You were already there. But again, if you weren't thinking ahead, if you weren't, because it's not like all that stuff was brand new. We didn't just start doing delivery and just start doing pickup last year.
It was around, right?
It was already there, and it was already where the industry was headed anyway, because it's something that people were more interested in having. People like the convenience of it. The consumer base, the customer base, was already moving in that direction. Definitely not as fast as it had to happen, but it was still happening. And if you weren't on top of that, and you weren't thinking about that, even if you hadn't moved your business yet, if at least you should have at least known what was going on and be having internal discussions about it and figuring out, hey, is this something we're gonna probably need to get here at some point? We're not ready yet, and we don't think it's that big of a deal that we'd be ready yet, but we need to get there at some point. And then last year told you like, well, sorry, you got to do it now anyway.
Right.
But if you were thinking ahead, maybe you were ready to make that pivot a little bit quicker than companies that weren't.
Yeah. And, you know, as you were talking, I was thinking to myself, you know, what if you worked for a company that was stagnant? That didn't have the disposition of, hey, change is going to happen out there, and we just need to be cognizant of that. We need to have our ear to the ground of what's happening so that our business can morph into what's happening in the marketplace. Man, that would not be a good place to be. So if you're listening to this and your company culture is not one where they're at least talking about what's happening in the marketplace and they're cognizant of the changes that are happening. Look, I understand that, you know, some companies, you know, ideas come to the table and this idea runs, and you know, the other ones aren't by the decision makers and stuff like that. That all is fine, but just having, again, the overall disposition that, hey, change is going to happen. That's got to be in that company culture so that you can react to that. And so if you're not in a company like that, man, I don't know. I'd be looking on because dude, you gotta expect change. Change is gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. And again, we all know change is scary. You know?
Right.
Most people are terrified of change. But you're right. If you're part of a culture that expects and understands change and is always
talking about it, exactly.
Then it's you get a lot more comfortable with it when someone comes and say, "Hey, we're making these changes," rather than just like, "We're never gonna change. We're never gonna change. We got to change." You know, that's.
I'm just trying to think of industries that like would never change. Utilities, maybe. I don't know. If I work for the waterworks, I mean, it's water, it's pipes. Okay, there's not a lot of change, but even there, I'm sure there's technological advancements and stuff like that. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
So, okay. And point number 3: rely on data. This is always one of my pet peeves of sorts because I don't consider myself an analyst in any way, but at the same time, data's there for a reason. We gather data for a reason. Data tells you a lot of things. It doesn't tell you everything, but it can tell you a lot of things. And if you're not paying attention to it, you're not listening to it, and you're not willing to do something with it, then what's the point? You know, one, why are you even gathering it? And two, like what are you going to get out of any of this? You know, how do you find your way forward? How do you figure out where change might be coming?
Right.
You know, if you're analyzing data, if you're seeing what's happening, you're talking to customers and hearing what's going on with them, and what are they experiencing in their day-to-day work? What's changing for them? And you're pulling all these data points together. It gets a lot easier to start looking at that stuff and go, hey, something's happening over here. What does that mean to our business? And the other part of this equation too is if that's not your thing, if you're not great at the data analysis, that's fine. Understandable. But guess what? There are lots of companies out there these days that are. There are companies who devoted their entire existence and their business model to helping you analyze data, figuring out what it all means, and giving you some options and suggestions for how you can move your business forward with it.
Absolutely. And part of the rub here is that relying on data is important. Data is out there, and it can help augment your instincts and what you're going to use in the decision making. You know, a lot of business owners are type A personalities, and they're like, oh, we're going to go over here. We're going to start doing this and make a decision just based on their instinct. Well, today's world, there's so much data out there and available. It seems a little foolish to make those kinds of decisions without some kind of data behind it. It's not the end-all be-all. Data is a data point. Right. It is yet another piece of the overall equation that you would make. And I don't care if it's making a company decision or if you're an employee at a company where you're just offering up some data because hey, change is being talked about around here, and I heard this over here, and this is a good data point. That's a healthy work environment when people are contributing ideas and data to the whole process. But data is not one of those things that you have to freak out about. No. There are resources out there, right? And so I personally have various resources that I'll go and skim to get some data, like Forrester and stuff like that. We don't buy their $5,000 guides and stuff like that, but we'll skim the notes and stuff like that. So there's data sources out there that you can become reliable on, but also keep in mind, and you were touching on this, John, what you were talking about, let's riff on this. You can create your own data. So if you have an idea, there's nothing wrong with creating a quick survey, and there's all kinds of free tools out there to do that. Whip up a quick survey your customers on an idea or somewhere that you're thinking about taking the business. Let that be the data point that helps drive you. Even if you get 10 responses, 20 responses, again, it's that real world thing of what's happening in the marketplace that we're encouraging you. Talk to your customers, understand what's happening out there. Those are good data points that you can and rely on the information that's coming to you.
Man, I tell you, that is one of the dumbest things I think a company can do is not talk to their customers,
right?
And assume they know what their world is. It's one of those things that and it fascinates me even as a consumer when someone talks to me, especially in a sales role, and tries to tell me what my problems are or what I need or something. With no understanding of who I am. Now, if they've done the research, if they've done the work, and they've asked some people and talked to some people, and then come to me and say, hey, you probably are having trouble with this, right? Yeah, okay. And you probably have some troubles with this too? Yeah. Well, then have you thought about something like this? No. Well, let's tell you about it. That is a whole different conversation from, hey, I've got this. Right. You are going to want this.
Yeah, right.
Two very different conversations where you put someone on their back foot going, no, don't come sell me something. But again, if you've had some conversations, if you're talking to your customers, whether it is the customers that you have had for 20 years or the ones you just picked up in the last month, and you're asking them what's going on in your business, what's happening right now, what's working, what's not working. We're really focusing on this right now. Is that important to you? Yep. No? Okay. Yeah. Is that important to you? No? You? No? Oh, okay. Well, maybe we need to go back and rethink what we're doing here. I mean, and that stuff is very simple data points.
Oh, yeah.
That is simply like having some yes or no questions.
We're not talking about rocket science here. Oh, and I got a pro tip for you. And I know all business owners know this, but if you're in marketing or if you're even accounting or another department that's not sales and you're listening to this, don't rely on the data that just your sales teams gives you. Yes. I love sales teams, but they're always going to be the ones that say, oh, our customers love what we're doing. And no, they're good. You know, there's no reason to serve. Everything that they need, we are accomplishing for them. There's your red flag. And in all seriousness, you need to, because sometimes the sales rep is not getting the full picture of what your customers think too. When I was a sales rep, I knew that I was probably getting a biased opinion of my product, my solution from my own customers. You know, they're giving, oh yeah, we like it, and maybe on the side they're having a side conversation. So surveying, it would be a great data point when you're trying to, again, think about how are we going to grow this company? How are we going to sustain our growth? Go out there, get an unbiased, as best you can, data points. One way you can do that is through surveying. There are other data points out there, but man, you got to use data. Yeah, and what you just said reminded me of this idea that you also have to be careful about those biases in the data that you get and make sure that you're getting it from the right people and a mix of people. Because I think of like what you just said, you're a salesperson and you talk to some of your favorite customers and ask them how stuff's going. Maybe they're just being nice to you and they don't want to be a jerk. And they don't feel like, telling you like, this is awful, I hate this or whatever, They might tell a survey that. Exactly, but they might tell a survey that. And then the flip side also is don't necessarily ask for all your information from people you don't know at all and have no business with, because that anonymity thing allows people sometimes to be a little more hypercritical than they have any reason to be. Absolutely. It's kind of like, I always think of, we've become a user input for, rating things kind of world where, like you go on Yelp or Google reviews or whatever. And, and there's always like those 5 or 6 reviews that are just trashing this place and saying it's the most awful thing. And you don't know the context of that. Maybe they were just having a bad day or had one random bad experience that was not representative of the business at all. But now if you go through 100 of those and 85 of them are bad reviews, that's a little bit more. That's a little bit more of an indicator of what's actually going on. So you do have to be careful sometimes about isolating data points, and only having 2 or 3 that say one thing and making a decision off of that. The bigger your pool, obviously, the better you get. Yeah, I mean, and the more diverse that pool is. 100%. Well. I mean, our optics here are sustaining growth for the company, right? I mean, this is important stuff. You need data points out there, and not just a couple of little data points. 100%. All right, 100%.
So next up, we're going to have number number 4 is one that if you have been listening to the podcast, we've already very much discussed in depth. I know you'll probably give a little more of a recap here, but build recurring revenue.
Absolutely.
Maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 episodes ago, we had an entire episode, again, from one of these particular articles, all about the idea of how to build recurring revenue in your business. But Dean, maybe give a little, kind of a bullet point synopsis of what we discussed there. And if you're interested, you can go back and explore the rest of that episode to learn more.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack when it comes to recurring revenue. But I'll just make this statement, as we've made in the past. If you're a reseller and you're not looking for ways to add and or modify your company into recurring revenue or some type of SaaS model, man, you need to be doing that at this point in time. There's all kinds of ways to do it. Yes, I'm going to give Jessica Croth a shout out on our media team. When you think about most of our resellers that are selling and putting in solutions that have printers, my gosh, there's the whole media around that. There's the paper, there's the ribbons, all of that stuff. This is high margin stuff that you can get recurring revenue on. But again, it comes down to a mentality of being able to think about your business. Again, we're talking about sustainability. How can you sustain it? Well, if you build a business that's around a SaaS model where you're getting that monthly check that's coming in, that's so much more marketable as a company. And so much more sustainable as a company than going out there and finding those nuts every day, every week, every month. Oh, where's the next project? Where's the next project? Just bringing in some recurring revenue, even if it's okay, keep your core and it's still, find a job, sell a job, move on to the next job, find a job, sell the job. But if you can build in a little bit of recurring revenue in there too, as well, now you're adding some more sustainability. It's going to start shifting the whole mentality of your company there. There's all kinds of ways, not just that, but you can get into service plans. Look for ways to say, okay, what kind of services do we provide that we can annualize or charge on a monthly basis for these types of things? You can do that. If you're a software company, I came across a couple great articles on this about how believe it or not, some software out there is still, buy it and you got it type of a thing. But other ways that you can build into recurring revenue would be such things as like a membership program. This is like members only area, and resellers could do this too, by the way. If I'm thinking about it back in the day when we did digital signage, man, I should have done like a membership program where you're delivering content, you're building out a community, you're offering coaching tips, to the people that are your customers. You're offering some consultation services that, sure, you could do that for free as a part of the membership only program and charge for it. So there are some unique ways that you can do that. But the whole point of the matter here is build some recurring revenue into your company so that you can make it sustainable.
Yep, I completely agree. You reminded me of one of my previous gigs was in textbook publishing for the higher ed level. And, if you've been to college or you have kids in college, textbooks are expensive.
Oh yeah.
Especially new. If you're buying a new textbook, very expensive. Trust me.
Even the used ones.
It was it was the one thing that was the biggest complaint you'd always get is like, how much do these things cost? And even knowing from working in that industry and understanding what goes into the creation of those books and where that money comes from and where it goes when you buy those things, it's still a ridiculously expensive industry, and it's one where that base level growth, that base level of your business was so difficult to attain. When I was in sales there, like you could, if you got a professor to use your book for an upcoming semester, that was one time. If it was the first time they were using it, and even then, there were still used copies could be floating around. Unless it was a brand new first edition, first time they were using it the first semester, you got a whole bunch of brand new sales out of that potentially. After that, kids are reselling it. They're selling it back to the bookstore. Copies are used. We got nothing out of that. If someone's buying a used book, that means nothing.
No recurring revenue for you.
Exactly. So even if they kept using that book, even if that particular person kept using that book year after year after year, after a few years or so, unless they were just replacing old beaten up copies, you may have only got maybe just a few that were sold for an entire class or an entire course each year. And where things started changing for us is around the time that I was leaving, and I think it helped them out a lot, especially in the last year, was when we started shifting over to digital ebooks and digital courses. where you sell a subscription fee online instead to somebody like, hey, here's 6 months access to this ebook, and it's also got all your built-in, homework modules, testing modules, online coursework. You can do digital highlighting, all this cool stuff that you can do online, which, modern students love anyway.
Yep.
But that's had to have created for them this nice recurring model, knowing like, hey, you can't resell that. Once you've got that code and you've put it in, that expiration's passed, you can't sell that back to the bookstore. The next student still has to buy it all over again. And you can start off from a cheaper base at that point where, hey, you know what? We're not going to charge you $200 for this.
You could, but I don't know that they're doing that.
They could.
I got 2 kids in college right now, and they
some of
complain
them
about
do,
that.
some don't. But, but even if you did, but let's say you did, and like, hey, we don't have to charge $200 for this one book that we know we're never going to see that sale again. Now we can charge $70 for this access, and then everyone still has to keep buying it. So as long as they're still using this, we're going to make that money up and then some easily along the way.
Yeah.
So that's just a practical
case.
example of, where adding recurring revenue can create if you want to have this idea of sustainable growth, you have to have a base. There has to be a baseline that is fairly steady and is always there. Might take a dip from time to time if somebody decides to stop using something. But for the most part, you can feel good like, hey, this is our baseline. Everything else we're going to do is going to be on top of that. And eventually maybe you get to set a new baseline and keep growing up from there. So.
But in there, as you were talking about that subscription type of service, this is a great way for software companies and resellers to build recurring revenue as well. Look, if you're a software company and you can go out there and find affiliate softwares or softwares that maybe bolt on or are close by your core and add that to your overall product offering. For resellers, this is an awesome way. I mean, it's like the no-brainer way of going out there and finding, again, talk to your customers. What kind of software are they using? Where do they want to take their business? What applications are they looking for that could take them there? Become an affiliate of those types of products, and now you're adding a little bit more to your business in doing it in a very purposeful way that is recurring revenue-based rather than project-based.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
All right, number 5 here. Form strategic partnerships. Again, this one feels like a little bit of a no-brainer, but we are especially in this channel, I feel like this is kind of a no-brainer in this channel because this whole channel is all about having all these different components and different parts to it. You've got your vendors, you've got the value-add distributor like us, you've got the resellers themselves, you've got software companies. All these different, pieces of the overall IT solution puzzle that are all working together in one way or another. Obviously, you have to have some relationships and some partnerships, but I think the key word here is strategic. And Dean, I'll let you kind of riff on that a little bit.
Absolutely. Even though it makes a lot of sense to us here at BlueStar, because again, we live in that ecosystem, I'm not so sure most resellers have this disposition either, where they're out there trying to form strategic partnerships. And this is what we mean here is not just a partnership, not just, oh yeah, we're gonna start whatever, working with this software company and maybe we'll add them on, or yeah, we'll take on this hardware vendor just for this one particular job and because they asked for the product and whatever. We're talking strategic stuff here. You want to dive deep with your partners that you're going to have in there. So if you're a reseller, we've already preached this, but just to reiterate, you want to have great relationships with your vendor partners, and those are things that you got to nourish. You have to exercise that muscle of talking to them and working on that strategic partnership because they are tapped into what's happening. The things we talked about, they're tapped into change, what's happening in the marketplace. They can give you data points to help you figure out what's a sustainable way to grow your business. They're in tap with that. So form strategic partnerships, not just, yeah, we buy product from XYZ vendor. Okay, but if you want to take it to the next level, if you want to have sustainability, develop a strategic relationship where maybe you've got NDAs going between you. Maybe you have a contract with those folks as well. It's okay to develop those types of things. Maybe it's people that are providing peripheral services to your core. It's okay to develop strategic relationships, meaning get in there, roll up your sleeves, figure out a way that you can come to an amenable contract, and maybe there's some referrals going back and forth and some fees being exchanged. That's going to be so much more meaningful than just, oh yeah, we resell this product or whatnot. Same on the software side. If you're a software developer, and we work with them all the time, you interface with software companies all the time that are looking to get in our channel, looking to perhaps get into an indirect model. form those relationships. Form them with the vendors first off. That's a huge one. If you're a software development company and you're not forming relationships with purpose-built devices and you want to get on our channel, you are missing the mark, man. You got to have those strategic relationships. Pick some of those folks that you can develop the relationships with and just nurture them, because they will pay out, and they will pay out in the long run as well. Yeah. It's really, really important.
You know, we've had a couple episodes this year that kind of touched on this topic in other ways. We did one about how to be a good channel partner, which explains how you can be the kind of partner that can form these strategic partnerships. And then we had another one that was about the vendor reseller relationship, which you can apply this to anywhere in the channel, any two connecting points really. That one of the key components and ideas that came up was this idea of making sure that your companies align.
Yes,
that you have similar values.
Yes,
that you have similar beliefs in how you go to market and how you work and what matters. Maybe that your core competencies either match up and align or fit well together, you know, complement one another in some way. That's the kind of stuff where when that works and that synergy is created, that's a strategic partnership that will take you places that you would not believe.
Absolutely.
That will make things so much easier when you go to approach a potential customer and you know that you have this great vendor partner in your back pocket, or, you know, side by side with you, or you're coming in strong with an awesome software partner, and you both together can tag team and say, hey, we got you covered on this. They've got you covered on that. Between the two of us, we're going to roll out the best thing you could possibly need in your organization right now.
And a little bit of it is that crawl, walk, run type of mentality, in the sense that, look, if you've got some data behind you, you're having that conversation about how are we going to grow this company in the next 5 years, right? What are we going to start doing? And you got partnerships on the table. You need to come up with a strategy that is going to enable that kind of that crawl, walk, run, if you will. And your point is absolutely valid, that when you start vetting, let's just say you're a reseller and you're vetting some software that you want to start thinking about, we're going to grow our business in this way. Maybe it's security. Let's run with security. And you want to start vetting some security options out there. Look, have the conversation. Go through the due diligence. Don't just Google a name and see who the top security person is or whatever software out there is, and okay, yeah, we're going to go.
Because they might have paid for that placement. Let's be honest.
Right? Yeah. And they may not match your DNA at all. They might not be, let's say you're a slightly more conservative about your approach to the marketplace and you're going to crawl a little bit. You might be hitching up to somebody who's very aggressive, got whatever. They just got another round of VC funding and they've got all these quotas that they got to hit. And if you're not buying from them right now, they're moving on. And they're not going to support you in any way. So you got to do the due diligence. You got to have the conversation, form strategic partnerships, have that optic that you're looking at, because if they're strategically aligned with you, if their cultures align with you, that's going to be a much better foundation moving forward.
And then our final bullet point here, number 6, minimize churn. And the article has a great way of describing this, which is the leaky bucket effect. And we kind of, I kind of referenced this earlier when we were talking about the idea that, hey, you have to have some kind of a base level. You want to have those steady customers that you can rely on. They might be, obviously, if you've got a recurring revenue model set up with them, that's that base that you can grow off of. But the important part too is to remember, like, just because they're your steady Eddie customers doesn't mean that they're there for life. That nothing will ever change for them. They will never take their business away from you. So in my mind, I look at this as, hey, make sure you're always having communication with them, checking in with them, talking to them on a regular basis. We've said that a few times now too. Finding out what's going on in their world, what's happening. Are they still happy with what they're getting from you? What movement and changes are they seeing in the marketplace? Where do they think they're going to be going in the next few years or so? Because you don't want to hit that point where suddenly one day you look and you go to call on your favorite customer and they say, yeah, sorry, we actually moved our business, elsewhere, or we're looking at other places because you guys don't really do this anymore, or don't do what we're trying to do next, and we need to get on that. Don't put yourself in that position. Don't, minimize that churn by keeping in touch with your customer base and making sure that baseline of your profit is maintained and you can grow on top of it. Because if you're not, there's no such thing as sustainable growth, because all you're going to be doing is just struggling to fill in those gaps. You're struggling 100%. To plug those holes in that leaky bucket.
Yeah. I mean, most companies, they think about their core business. Oh, okay, we're really good at what we do, and we're honing our skills at whatever. We're a reseller of ADC, and nobody does it like we do. We can code it, and we can install this anywhere. And so they just keep going, customers, and they think they've developed this nice little cash cow, right? We've got this nice little business here that's running really well. They're not keeping the optics on minimizing churn. You don't want to lose the folks that you've already worked so hard to get. You want to make sure that you're keeping them, that you're adding real value to that whole proposition along the way. And here, with the leaky bucket effect, oh no, what we had 100 customers last year, suddenly we're down to 80. Now we're down to 60. What's going on?
Right.
You don't want to be that person that's caught. Oh my gosh, yeah, that cash cow just turned into a cash calf or something. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
little cow,
a little cow, tiny little cow. Moo. So let's kind of wrap this whole thing up here and maybe kind of give our bottom line impressions of this.
Yeah.
And a couple things I thought of. One, in fact, as we were just talking there, is this idea of like, look, don't get complacent. Don't ever assume that someone's not coming for your business. I mean, I know you all have, almost everybody's got a competitor of some sort. But, depending on where your business is and how good you are at it, you might think that there's some of your business that's just untouchable. Like, no, I got this. No one's coming for this. Don't ever make that mistake, because at some point you were that young upstart, that up and coming business, that new business that went in and was stealing business away from the old established guys that have been doing it for years and doing it one way for years. Is there someone who's coming for you too? And even if you never really know who they are or never even know that they're out there, assume that they are and operate according to that. Think about that as you're trying to figure out like how you want to keep your business moving, how you want to grow, is again that understanding like, look, someone's always coming for us. And if we're not looking for opportunities to grow, they're going to catch up to us sooner than later.
And what if you work for a company that's maybe been established for a little bit and the ownership's a little bit, they're cruising, they're what we call lifestyle type of owners, where they've got a certain lifestyle and they're good to go. Hey, look, if you're in the sales department or the marketing department and it's okay to be a little bit engaged in the company. And if you're the one that's kind of pushing this, that, hey, how are we going to sustain this growth? How's this company going to be around in 5-10 years and bringing ideas to the table? That's okay. You can be that person, and hopefully you'll get a good response from ownership, because look, I'd rather be in that position where I'm kind of pushing it along. When you're pushing things along, also, by the way, expect some growing pains, which is a good thing to do. The reality is there that when you have that optic of how are we going to sustain, how are we going to grow, expect some growing pains along the way. But here's the final key that I'll throw on the table. It comes down to the people that are in the company, right? If you have highly skilled, great people that are competent, you can move mountains with people. So that is the main optic. And if you're on a good team environment and you're in a company that is open to innovation and looking in a very prudent way about how to sustain growth and not just throwing money and ideas on the table and randomly going after them, you're probably in a pretty good spot, because that company's going to have sustained growth over time. So think about that too.
Yep, definitely. All right. Well, hey, listen, if you have liked what you've heard here today, there's a few things I want you to do. First of all, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, and I know a lot of you do, go into the show notes page, hit that 5-star review.
So easy.
Yeah, you literally just go in there and tap the 5th star. That's it. You're done. And you can go about your business. You could have done it in the time I've told you to do it. You could have already done it.
Yep.
Hey, but if you'd like to, leave us a review too. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you think of the show,
Absolutely.
What you like. I mean, you can tell us what you don't like too. We'll make fun of you for that. But tell us what you like about the show. We appreciate it. Actually, you can tell us what you don't like too, because we always want to grow and change and make ourselves better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So please do that. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to BlueStar's YouTube channel if you haven't already. We do all kinds of great fun stuff. We have a trivia show. We're doing cooking shows.
Yep.
We always have great product videos and information from our vendors that you can find there. So no reason not to subscribe. Turn on notifications so you see when a new video comes out. And hey, like this video if you're watching right now. Again, super simple. Just click. But hey, if you want to get in touch with us, tell us a little bit more about what you think about the show. If you have some ideas for future topics or some questions you want to throw our way, you can email us, TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com, or find us on Twitter @TEConnectPod. All right, let's wrap things up with our recurring segments. And the first is our value to the VAR.
Yes, sir.
Which, I mean, let's be honest, this whole conversation has been valuable to VARs.
Yes.
But in particular, I wanted to wrap this up, though, by, kind of tooting our own horn here a little bit at BlueStar. And Dean, I'll let you kind of start this because this is really your baby and wheelhouse here. But what kind of services does BlueStar offer to help our customers, with their sustainable growth?
Yeah, that's part of our optics. I mean, we don't survive unless our customers survive. So we often think about, okay, what can we bring to the table as a value-added distributor? That's what we are, a VAD. What values can we bring to the table to help our customers grow and sustain? We got a couple of them. First off, there's that good old TEConnect program that we have out there. If you haven't gone to TEConnect.com, go there. If you're a reseller, what the whole program is developing the ecosystem around software development companies, resellers, BlueStar, hardware manufacturers, and creating that kind of ecosystem that we can live within. And within that program, we've got such things as end user demand generation programs. We have events that we do. We can connect software companies to hardware companies. There's a lot of good stuff. And oh, by the way, if you're a reseller that's looking for a particular software company, ping up, hit your sales rep up, and they will get in contact with us, and we can try to find you somebody that we've worked with, that we've vetted through the process. So that's going to help fast track you, give you yet another data point that can help you when you're trying to figure out how you're going to make your business grow. So we got the TEConnect program out there. I'm going to go back to our sales rep because one of the things that we bring to the table is a one-to-one relationship that our sales team has with our reseller customers. That's huge in a way of trying to figure out how you sustain growth. When you're in that mode, you want to be as efficient as you possibly can with information, with getting ordering and stuff like that. So the fact that we have a one-to-one relationship with our customers makes your whole world a lot more efficient. If you don't do business with us today, try us out. You should. In our sales team, they're awesome. We have services. We call it BlueStar Services. Oh my gosh, our services team can really, really help companies grow by enabling them through custom configuration. Let's say you've won a big deal. You're popping the champagne. You got to do a rollout of 100 locations or something like that, and then you sit back and say to yourself, "Oh my gosh, how are we going to do this?" BlueStar Services can help you. We have a config team that's awesome. They never say no. They just don't say no. But they can help you in configuring your stuff or doing a rollout. Contact us. We can help you grow because we can amplify your company, make your company look so much bigger than it is through our custom config services. So those just a couple of them out there. And of course, we're always there for the education part, like this BlueStar or like this TEConnect podcast and the events that we're going to start going out there and doing. Lots of ways that we can help our customers grow and sustain growth.
Yeah, we're we talked about strategic partnerships. We're pretty full of them here at BlueStar. We've got quite a few of them. I've joked about it before, but when I first came to BlueStar, I remember kind of wondering, like, what does this company do? Like, we don't make the stuff. Yeah. We don't use the stuff. We don't sell the stuff. We get the stuff from, like, it took me a while to understand.
Totally.
But then once you get immersed in it and you realize, like, what our place is in this channel and what the value that, our VARs get from us, that software companies get from us, that our vendors get from us, and you start realizing, oh man, like there's a really awesome place that we fulfill in this channel where we can make things happen. That whole list of what you said is all just great ways that we can help make things happen. And more importantly for our VARs or software partners is to make it easier for you to get back to doing what you do well, which is innovative products, selling, developing relationships with your customers. We want to make that as easy as possible for you to be able to spend time with that and not have to spend time spinning your wheels and all the other stuff.
100%. All boats rise.
There you go. That's right.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, let's wrap up with our favorite segment, What's Tech Connecting with You? This is where we kind of talk about something in the world of technology, innovation, science that's caught our attention. So maybe something happening in the news, some new gadget we're playing with. I've even used TV shows on streaming services because I'm a TV junkie and I just feel like they need to tell people about that stuff. Dean, what's Tech Connecting with you?
Well, I'm going to go with those streaming services for just a second. What does Friday night look like in the Martin house? If you're sitting down to watch a movie, do you guys decide relatively quickly what you're going to watch?
Well,
wait a minute. Maybe it's not fair to ask you this question.
I'm a junkie, so I always have a massive list of stuff to watch in the future. But my wife, I will admit, is one who's a little more prudent and picky about what she watches. And probably 85% of what I would enjoy watching. She would be like, no, that's not for me. So,
Well, okay,
sometimes
so
it
let me
can be a little
describe the Reverman household on a Friday night.
Okay.
Well, I got my daughter sitting down, my wife, and we start scrolling through Netflix, and 20 minutes later, we haven't made a decision. It's like, what are we watching here? Are we even going to watch something?
Right,
It's almost
right.
bedtime at this
Right.
point in time. So Netflix has your answer, and this is my TEConnect. They have a button now that will pop up after a certain amount of time that just simply says, play something.
Yep.
So all you have to do is tap the play something button, and it's going to play something for you.
Just something random. But I'm assuming it's based on your preferences and interests because they track
God, I hope
everything
so.
you watch and
I hope
they know
so.
what you like.
But I read this and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, we have gotten here as a society, and I'm in this bucket. I'm who they've developed this button for. Unfortunately, that I can't make a decision, so now I'm going to have them make the decision for me.
Right.
So yeah, I'm paying you Netflix so that I can watch movies, and now you're just going to even decide what I watch.
Yep. That could come in pretty handy for my toddler. Like sometimes he'll ask to watch something, and I'll say, "Well, what do you want to watch, buddy?" And he's like, "You just tell this crippling like, what? I got to make choices. I'm 3 years old. How do I make decisions at this point?"
Yeah.
So maybe that might be helpful for him.
It'll be interesting to see how. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this works. To your point, I'm assuming that they're going to serve me up some Netflix original content that is based on what I've already watched or a couple of times. Even though those algorithms, I guess. No, we've got different people, and I was going to say, because when my daughter gets on there, she's watching shows that I don't really want to watch,
Right.
when the rare instance when I can watch things that I want to watch, totally different than whatever there is.
A next step that would be kind of cool there would be like play something, and then it says who's watching. And you could say
yes.
Dean and this kid are
Yes.
watching, like we're the two of us are watching right now. And it's
There you
okay,
go.
based on both of your preferences.
Yep.
Here's something we think you both might like.
Yep.
That'd be pretty cool.
There's some AI that we need.
That's
See,
right.
That's a good use of AI.
I'm gonna send that to Netflix and be like, put a little copyright on it. Said I'll take some cash. Thank you very much. I'll take some of that Netflix money. I don't know if that'll work or not. Probably not.
Well, yeah. So
Okay, cool.
what's TEConnecting with you, my man?
So you mentioned on a previous podcast, I don't know how long it's been now, this whole non-fungible token NFT thing.
NFTs.
Which
Revolutionizing the world.
If you want to say that, yeah. We were wrapping our minds around this idea
I don't know that I
selling
have
something
still.
that doesn't technically exist and yet still not actually selling it. Well, another layer here is I just read yesterday about have you ever heard of the meme Disaster Girl?
No.
So anybody who's familiar with a lot of memes, you've probably seen it, but may not know the name of it. So Disaster Girl is a meme that people have done a lot of frequently edit at whatever uses or add some text to. But basically it shows in the background there's a house burning and like firefighters are trying to put out the fire, and there's a little girl in the foreground who's like turned around looking at the camera with a little bit of a smirk on her face. That,
Like an evil smile?
Right, kind of implying that she's the one that set the fire.
Okay.
So people have used this on many different occasions in
Got it.
memes to illustrate, I did this kind of thing, or like watching it all burn to the ground in Glee kind of stuff. Well, that girl, first of all, that's an old meme, apparently. It's been around since 2012, I think.
And somebody turned this into an NFT?
Well, there's a quick little story behind it. That was apparently actually a controlled fire that was being done in the neighborhood for the fire department in order to to do some training.
I got you. Yeah.
And the neighbors had all shown up to kind of watch it and hang out and everything. And apparently, this little girl and her dad had gone to see it. And at one point, the dad asked her to take a picture of her. with
so
the
it's
fire
an
in the
innocent.
background.
Yeah, I
Right.
got you. All right.
And he said to smile, and she gave this perfect smile, which just looks like I'm the one who did this kind of thing. Well, now that girl is 21 years old, and she has just recently sold that as an NFT on an auction for $500,000.
No. A picture, a single picture for $500,000.
Yes, and okay.
What are people doing?
There's a couple interesting kickers here. One is apparently this is I mean, we know the NFT is a thing, but like this whole like selling memes thing now is a thing in the NFT world because
the original. It's not even. I guess it's the original. Go ahead.
Well, the guy who worked with her on this, like the agent, I guess, for this.
There's NFT agents out there now.
He's an agent he's an agent for the family that had the success kid. Remember the little kid on the beach, pumping his fist, success.
Right.
Him, the Irma Gerd girl. You know what that is. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So he represents all these people that have these like goofy memes that are out there in the world. And he sold a bunch of these for all kinds of money. But here's the kicker that drives me nuts, where I can't wrap my head around all this, is they said in the article that the family still owns the copyright to that picture and will still get a percentage of any future transactions related to it.
What?
So then what did you sell?
Yeah.
What did someone spend $500,000 for?
I guess they sold the original digital file of that.
Maybe, I don't know.
And so only one of those exists. So there's scarcity. I'm riffing
know,
with you here. I don't. What would be the value of that? So there is only one, even though you can duplicate it.
Yeah,
it's
you can.
It's a
if
digital
you
thing.
seriously
You can
go on the internet right now and search "disaster girl," and you will find the original picture and hundreds of memes related to it.
Well, not the original picture, I
Well-
guess, because now that's NFT'd. But
That's just it. What does that mean in the digital world?
Exactly. Why is that worth $500,000? Who paid $500,000 for something that's everywhere?
Like we said
literally.
before, it's people with a lot of disposable
Not only did they
income.
spend $500 on $500, even that would be
$500 would still be
a
ridiculous.
crime
Yeah.
in my mind. But $500,000. But you're saying that they don't even have the copyright to that, so the family's
No.
still making money on it.
Yeah.
God, brilliant.
We need to start making some memes.
Marco, we need to start going out and just making some
we
stuff
just need
up.
to we need someone.
Just random pictures.
Marco, just while we're recording, just start randomly taking pictures of us or pulling snippets out of the podcast where we have goofy looks on our faces.
Yes.
Something that's memeable in some way. Which,
burning
let's be
building in
honest,
the background.
These two faces are probably memeable on a pretty regular basis.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I'm sure we can figure out something.
Oh, we need
Make some
help
money.
there. We need to shift our. I don't know. How can
It's
we
probably
get
too late now. Like if you're trying to do it now, it's too late.
No.
You're never gonna
Hey,
get in.
the topic here is sustainable growth. So we're going to start today, and we're going to figure out a way that we can sell an NFT for. I'll go for a mere $100,000. I'd be happy.
There you go.
This is ridiculous. I don't get it. Anyway,
So that's what's sort of tech connecting.
You
with
got me perplexed
tech
as well.
baffling with me right now.
tech
All right,
baffle. Tech beef, tech baffle. Got it.
That's right. That does it for us today. It is time for us to unplug. We hope you've enjoyed this conversation. For Dean Reverman, I'm John Martin. Until next time, stay connected. By now, we all know that purpose-built mobile devices are better than consumer, especially in healthcare. But if your customers insist on using them anyway, insist that they protect them with Code Reader 7000 series healthcare-grade battery backup cases. Made of PVC-free Code Shield disinfectant-ready plastics and Dragon Tail shatterproof glass, CR7000 cases are ready to protect iPhones from harsh chemical disinfection and provide full enclosure from bacteria and viruses. Combine that with an easily swappable external battery that more than doubles the life of the phone, and you have the perfect solution to make comfortable consumer-grade devices ready for intense daily use. Fully enclosed means fully protected. To learn more, check out the link in the show notes or contact your BlueStar Code representative. By now, you probably know that adding touchscreens at check-in and throughout the care journey has a big impact on patient experience in healthcare. But what about the providers themselves? Give them the technology they need with Elo 03 series medical-grade touchscreen monitors. Merging Elo's best-in-class touch technology with DICOM 14 functionality enhances clinical review, improves workflows, and eliminates common keyboarding and point-click errors. Compact, clean designs make these monitors perfect for EMR documentation, image viewing, clinical collaboration, lab and pharmacy work, and much more. To learn more about these built-to-last monitors, check out the link in the show notes or contact the BlueStar Elo team. Do you create innovative, problem-solving software but struggle to expand your audience or engage with hardware manufacturers? Zebra is ready to help with their Partner Connect program. As a member, you can take advantage of development support, go-to-market tools and resources, and collaborate to establish new reseller relationships. Zebra will also provide technical support, testing, discounted demo equipment, and more while improving your visibility with their partners, resellers, and sales team. To learn more, watch an overview video, and sign up, check out the link in the show notes. Hey, while you're there, check out BlueStar's TEConnect program, designed to help you engage across the reseller ecosystem and provide additional opportunities to network, meet new partners, and even take advantage of our unique end-user marketing strategies. Sign up now at TEConnect.com.